Hello and welcome to the first in a series of videos where we will talk about setting up a Spirit Flybarless device. When you first install a new Spirit unit, or if you're just resetting it for a new helicopter, you need to go through a few steps that tells the Flybarless unit what radio protocol is used, what servos you're using, the orientation on your helicopter, as well as the orientation of the swash plate. This means that initially we need to connect the Spirit Flybarless unit to your computer via USB and power it up with a separate power source like a 2-cell LiPo, or have your motor completely disconnected. So now we are ready to open the Spirit Settings app, and once we do, we click on the wizard button, pause the intro screen, and go to step 1. In step 1, you tell the Spirit what radio protocol to use. We have PWM, just classic, so that's one servo to one servo output to servo inputs, PPM, Spectrum, satellites if you use those, Futaba S-Bus, which I will be using for my radio since it's OpenTX, Jetty, SRXL, it's an older Spectrum protocol I believe, some D for Graupner, or the newer SRXL2 protocol for Spectrum as well is now supported. I'm not sure, I think it's some fixes in the latest release for that, and it should work properly now. Don't use it, but I read on the forums some changes being made there. So once we've selected our protocol, we'll click on next, and this page shows me or reflects the changes I made on the previous screen. If I selected a different protocol, I would have seen a different wiring diagram here. Since I selected S-Bus, Futaba S-Bus, you'll see it shows me the S-Bus adapter needs to be connected to the rudder port and the polarity that it needs to be connected in. It also showed me where I could connect my BAC, and then of course if I want to do integration with my radio, I can connect to the sys port and go to the next step. In step 2, we choose the orientation of the Flybarless unit. The picture on the right here shows a arrow, that's the front of your helicopter, and you can see the orientation in relation to the front of the helicopter. Now my unit is differently mounted, it is actually 180 degrees out, so I'll go and select horizontal 180, and you'll see the picture change to show that. I'm not going to click on the swash plate here. What I'm going to do is go to model preset and then go and look for my helicopter. This allows the wizard to do some preloading of certain settings and makes it easier for you to set up your radio. We're going to go and click Goblin because that is what I plan to put this bird on, and you can see that the swash plate is now changed to reversed from what it originally was. So that's already an indication of some of that preloading done from the wizard since I selected Goblin 380. Alright, we'll go to the next step, which is step 3, and this one is the really important one where you set up your servos, and you go, really important? Well, you can fry your servos if you do not match them. So for cyclics, typically you want to leave the pulse at the default, the 1520 microseconds, but you want to go and update your frequency depending on what quality of servo you have. If you have a really fast servo, you want to make sure that the system can make use of that, but make sure that you go and look at the specs of the servo and that you have the right setting in there. Rudder, typically the settings are 760 microseconds for a rudder in center, or 960 depending on which you got, and then of course go and get your frequency updated. Now depending on the setting that you made in the previous step, this picture here would have been updated, and as you can see it now reflects my servo and channel 1 in the bottom right, channel 3 bottom left, and elevator on channel 2. So you can go and connect your servos once we finish with this initial part of the setup. Speaking of which, we are now ready to go to that step. Now at this point in time, these settings are not saved yet. You need to go and click on connect before we go there, and even now it's still not saved. It is now just telling you, oh, some changes were made in the wizard that doesn't reflect on the Flybarless unit. So once you click OK here on this dialog, your settings will be saved. There you go, the settings were saved. Now the system tells you, well, you need to reconnect. Well, we're not going to reconnect directly. We will take power off the unit. We will now connect our servos in the order that was shown in the previous diagram. We will connect our ESC, make sure the orientations and everything is correct, make sure your blades are disconnected or the motor is disconnected, right? Before we put power back on the Flybarless unit. Thank you for watching, and talk to you in part 2 of this video series.